Hey guys, how are you? So I think I had a little hiccup where I think some of you were already in and I booted you out by mistake. So I'm just going to hold for another 2 minutes or so to make sure that anyone who was um, already in and coming back in still gets in. All right, guys, we're going to hold 1 more minute and then we're going to push forward. All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope that you are well on this gorgeous June the 1st. Happy Monday. And so this is our Success Through Teams conversation. So you know kind of the background of this session, which we typically hold about monthly. The genesis of this is that one of the most common questions that I get asked by either new or newer agents in the business or newer agents to our company is, should I go it alone or should I join a team? And so what I intend to accomplish with you today is to kind of outline for you the opportunities with each path and the sacrifices with each path, because they each come with an opportunity and a sacrifice. First and foremost, let's be clear that there is no right or wrong answer to this question. I am sorry, guys. Hold 1 second for me while I handle a piece of paperwork. Hold on a second. Come. Sorry about that. So there is no right or wrong answer to the question team versus solo. It's completely viewer's choice, if you will. We have a lot of really successful teams and team agents in our offices, and we have a lot of really successful solo agents. So it's all a matter of what fits with you, your personality, your business goals. So again, as we go through these conversations, just remember that no one's advocating on one side or the other. We just want to make sure that you have the information. So let's start on the team side, if we could. Why do people join teams? A whole bunch of reasons, right? And so usually when we have a classroom with all of you sitting in it, I would sit and wait for you to answer those questions. But since we are in a Zoom environment today, I think I'll kind of list for you the reasons that people join teams, and we can just kind of discuss each one of them. So in my experience, the biggest reason that people join teams across the board, not just locally, but across the country, is leads. It's access to leads. Right, and so there are some interesting misperceptions about leads when one is joining a team. I think oftentimes people get to a point of saying, you know, I think I'm not generating leads on my own, so therefore I'll join a team where I don't have to generate leads, and the leads will just be handed to me, and I can go and do what I like to do, which is go ahead and close them. And I think what you'll find is that is in most cases a misperception, right? In most cases, when you join a team, the team will also ask you to do your fair share of generating leads. You have a database that you'll dive into. The team will assist in many cases in helping you either organize that database or have a strategy or a program into that database. But your ability to lead generate kind of comes with you. It's part of your resume when you are joining a team. And if you're on this call because you're interested in perhaps starting a team, think through that as well, right? You do have a responsibility as a rainmaker to provide a level of leads and an opportunity to ask that the members of your team also contribute to the lead generation process. That's not something that you necessarily, as the rainmaker, take the burden of 100%. And so as it relates to leads, we do suggest that you have some conversations around what that looks like. You know, if you're interviewing for a position on a team, or you're the interviewee for team members, make sure that you're having conversations around who does the lead generation, right? Is it the rainmaker, is it the team member, or is it both? What's the structure around that? What are the expectations? What lead generation systems does the team already have in place? Does the team generate leads from their own databases? Are they a big expired team, or is it a big open house team? Are there internet lead sources? Are they running Facebook ads and/or Zillow ads? You know, those kinds of things, and having that conversation to know what that looks like. Are they getting leads from their listings, the team? And if so, what does that look like? As a member, as a potential team member, are you looking into the listing statuses of the teams that you're interviewing with to see who's carrying a heavy listing volume, right? Because buyers come from listings. And so if you're looking to join a team that doesn't have a whole lot of listing volume, how else are they making that up in terms of lead generation? So those kinds of conversations in regards to leads need to be upfront and clear so that everyone knows what they're doing and knows exactly what the expectations are right up front. Questions around leads? Okay, so the second reason that people tend to join teams is support. Now, support can be found in a number of different ways, right? The first idea on support is that we're talking about administrative support. The team is going to have that full-time administrator kind of already in place before you get hired. And again, for those of you who are looking to start teams, it is our firm recommendation, strong recommendation, that you implement administrative help before you start to hire team agents, right? And the concern there is that if you don't have any administrative help and you hire a team agent, well, you should be able to double your production with that team agent. And if you don't have help for what you're doing already, and then you're doubling the production on the team and there's no administrative help underneath it all, here's what I've seen happen. The rainmaker gets frustrated because at some level they thought that the team member they were hiring was somehow going to alleviate some of that administrative work. And so then 3 to 6 months later, when the volume is up and all the administrative work is falling apart, the rainmaker's frustrated. because the team member isn't doing anything to alleviate the other issue, when of course that's not what they were really hired for. And at the same time, 3 to 6 months later, the team member who got involved and went into business with the team member is also frustrated because they had every expectation that was going to be done on their behalf. That was part of what they were joining, right? And so having a conversation around creating clarity for that, around that, is really important, so that 3 to 6 months later, you don't run into the scenario where everyone's frustrated and looking at the other person saying, well, I don't understand why this isn't getting done, right? If you think that doesn't happen, I've watched it happen over and over again, right? And then of course there's a divorce at the end of that 3 to 6 months, not because the rainmaker and the team member weren't really good together, but because they didn't have, the team didn't have a support structure underneath it to support all that was good. And so unfortunately then people part ways when maybe they didn't have to. You know, and the administrative help that you're looking for from a team, and again, those of you looking to create your own team, here's what you're looking for. You're looking for transaction management and client care, right? Generally speaking, those are the two main job descriptions. I can't think of how to say that, so you know what I mean. The main activities that the administrative assistant will be focusing on, so that as the agents are going out and selling, doing what they're great at, there's somebody else who's kind of cleaning up the mess, taking care of the documentation, taking care of the listing paperwork, taking care of the database on command, taking care of the client care for conversations that don't need to be done by the agents. And then of course, transaction management to make sure that the transactions are moving forward and that communication with all the different players is maintained to step that through the process. The second version of support that I find that most people join teams to receive is some level of coaching and consulting, right? That the team should be able to provide an environment to you where you can get assistance from the leader of that team. You know, potential rainmakers on this call, that's you, right? Are you in a position to offer that guidance, to offer help and assistance to the people on your team to make sure the transactions are going smoothly and continue to move forward? Are you able to do that and willing to do that, right? I've seen some teams that are formed where the rainmaker is more than able to do that, but was far less willing to do that, right? And so then you have people kind of hanging out, struggling for some help, and the leader of that team not in a willing position to go ahead and help those people, even though it would be in their best interest to do so, right? But again, that's why I'm encouraging these conversations up front, so that you know the environment that either you're creating as the leader of the team, or you know the environment that you're entering if you're looking to be hired to a team. I would ask questions like, who do I go to for help? Right? When I run into a problem, who do I go to for help? If the first answer from the rainmaker is Rick or your team leader, right, that you may have to ask some more questions. You may not have someone that you're going into business with who is willing and able to assist you personally first. And I think that's an important piece for some people getting into relationships. Are there weekly meetings, check-ins to keep you growing and learning? Are goals inside of the team discussed and cultivated, and things of that nature, right? So the support piece is another important, the support in terms of coaching and consulting, another important piece. So the third version of support is accountability, right? Are you joining a team, or are you starting a team to gather a group of people together who hold each other accountable to make sure that things get done? What are your numbers that you need to hit each week? Who's going to be asking me about those? How do I report them in? Does the team track them at all? Or does kind of anything go? Right? These are the things, and again, I'm not advocating for or against any of these topics. These are just things I want to be certain that you guys are having conversations around, so you understand what that environment looks like before you say yes. What are the financial goals? Are the people that you're going into business with, do they have similar financial goals to you? Are you all pointed in the same direction? How are those financial goals being addressed? Are there reward structures inside of the team when it comes to accountability? Right, lots of different questions that you can be asking. And again, rainmakers and potential rainmakers, lots of questions that you can be asking yourself around what it is you're offering, what's the value proposition you're pushing out to be attractive to the best talent, right? The fourth version of support is technology. And with Command getting bigger and bigger and better, and more of our teams moving to Command, a lot of this conversation starts to go away, right? Today, maybe the conversation is a simple one. Maybe it's a simple conversation of do you utilize Command for running the team so that you know what to expect, right? There could be additional technology conversations like, what other systems do you use? How would that benefit me? Do I have access to all those systems? What does that look like, right? And so those conversations around those technology aspects, really important to have. The third reason people join teams typically is some version of reduced expenses. Now, on some teams, you're going to hear me say some a lot in this next conversation because every single team is different, right? You need to be asking some specific questions so that you have an understanding about what you can expect. On some teams, there may be reduced expenses versus being a solo agent because some teams cover basic expenses like perhaps your desk and maybe your monthly KW fee. Others might cover your licensing fee or board dues, MLS dues, while others might cover your E&O insurance premium and perhaps education costs for the year. There are some teams that depending on your production level and your tenure with the team, might pay for you to attend family reunion or might pay for you to attend a portion of family reunion, right? So all of those opportunities may exist depending on the team that you connect with and your level of production. Again, on the flip side, for those of you rainmakers and potential rainmakers, if you're looking to start or grow your team, what does that value proposition look for? I want you to go through and make sure that you're clear about what it is you're offering. Do you know how competitive you are? What are other teams offering so that you know that you might have to offer something else or something on par with what someone else is offering to be competitive? One of the things I'm going to just take a sidestep here and mention to you, and I'm going to put my Gary Keller hat on for a minute and say to you, whether you're on this call as a potential member of a team, or you're on this call as a rainmaker or a potential rainmaker, remember that most of this conversation has everything to do with the war for talent, right? And what I mean by that is teams grow exponentially when talented people come together for a common purpose. Right? And so as a rainmaker or as a potential rainmaker, you need to be making sure that the value proposition you offer, just like we constantly and consistently look at the value proposition we offer agents in general to make sure that when you say yes to being in business at Keller Williams Realty, you say yes to a list of benefits, right? If it's not beneficial for you to be here, why be here, right? if it makes sense to be at Coldwell Banker because you get paid better and the environment's better and you get better support and better growth opportunities, well, then why on earth would you ever come here if Coldwell Banker is offering all that and we're not, right? So it's a constant benchmarking to make sure that you're talking to people of talent. For those of you who are looking to perhaps join a team, all of these things that I'm going through is kind of an outline and a checklist of the talent that Rainmakers are looking to be in business with, right? So utilize this as a cheat sheet to say, you know what, so if I'm a lead generator who brings business with me, I'm a team player, I have high financial goals, I'm highly accountable, don't play the victim, you know, I'm looking for someone to help coach me to higher levels of production and be a team player and like all those things. You're kind of checking the boxes that that Rainmakers and potential Rainmakers are looking for when they're looking to hire talent. So remember that it's a talent equation on both sides of the equal sign. That when you hit it right, it's kind of like hitting the jackpot. Okay, so we were in the middle of reduced expenses. So I just didn't want to forget that whole talent conversation. So I'll thank you for allowing me to take a quick break and cover that. So back to reduced expenses. Again, you'll have that conversation. Some teams offer some of these things right out of the gate. Some teams offer these things when you hit certain production levels. Some teams will look for you to be inside the team and functioning at a high level for 6 months or 12 months before some of those reimbursements start popping up, right? So again, ask all those questions to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what that looks like. The fourth reason that people join teams is environment. And environment is something different for each person on this call, right? For some, like the camaraderie and the environment of not being alone every day, right? Real estate can be a lonely business. And so some people like and appreciate the idea of coming in to the office, you know, sort of, coming into the whatever, diving onto a Zoom call and having a team of people around them that they can do things with, right? And that's an attraction for some people in terms of environment. I would ask questions around environment, such as, what can I expect, right? Is this a team that everybody lead generates in the same room every day together? Or is that something we do separately, right? For some people, that's an attraction. For others, that they'll run screaming from the conversation if you say, yes, we all come in and lead generate in the same room, right? So you need to know what that environment looks like before you say yes. Is it more of a family environment or is it more of a business environment? I'm not saying one is better than the other because that's going to depend on you and what you bring to the table. Some people clearly like to have more of a family environment where they can kind of be with each other, and others clearly like a more business-like environment where, I mean, you know, we're not going bowling on the last Tuesday or the last Sunday of the month, or we're not doing the things that sometimes family business environments do versus business environments. Does the team host group masterminds in any way, shape, or form? Are there trips for education or events together? Is everyone diving in and driving to Rhode Island together to listen to Mike Michalowicz talk about profit first? Those kinds of things, right? So the environment of the team, for those of you who are looking to start or grow a team, you need to be really clear about what environment you are offering. So because we're encouraging people to ask that question as you're interviewing people for the team. And for those of you who are interested in perhaps being a team agent, important question, really important question. Because here's what I'll tell you, what I have found is that everything else I mentioned so far could be right, but if the environment is not right for you, that's a relationship that likely is not meant to last as long as you want it to, right? Because the environment is kind of what keeps us coming back. If it's the wrong environment, you start to feel like you don't want to come back. So do ask a bunch of questions around that. And then the last thing that I'll talk about in terms of why join a team, schedule and flexibility, right? Schedule and flexibility. It may be easier for you to go on vacation, you know, if in fact vacations were available at this present time. But we will get on a plane at some point, I promise. We will get on a plane again. Or take some time off, or perhaps you have a specific need in terms of flexibility during the day. You know, maybe you're the person who needs to be home at 3 o'clock to make sure the kids get off the bus, and from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that's your focus. Well, a team might be able to balance that opportunity out for you, because someone else on the team might be able, if there was no way around rescheduling a client for those time periods, somebody else might be able to assist you there, right? So schedule and flexibility is another reason that people oftentimes look at teams. So those are kind of the opportunities of a team, and as I said before, no opportunity is solely an opportunity. It's almost always opportunity mixed with sacrifice. And so joining a team does have some sacrifices, right? And again, those of you looking to start or grow a team, think about how you'll work these angles to smooth off the edges a bit, to make sure that the sacrifices that a member of a team makes are worthwhile in the bigger picture. And the first is money, right? When you're on a team, commissions are not all yours. On most teams, depending on the piece of business that you close, you'll earn between 0 and 50% on sales of buyers or listings. Sometimes there's different numbers for rental opportunities. And don't forget, you still have your split with KW, right? The split with KW doesn't go away. Everyone caps individually for all intents and purposes. So for example, you sell a $500,000 house, right? The typical commission there is around $12,500. As a solo agent who's not capped, you'd have your 70-30 split with KW. So your 70% is $87.50. On a team, if your split with the team is 50-50, right, which is more typical than almost anything else. We'll talk a little bit about the numbers in a second, right? You'll pay half of that commission to the team, which leaves you at the halfway mark of $62.50, and then you earn 70% of that if you're not capped with KW, and so your number becomes $43.75. Right now recognize that earning half, some people scratch their heads and say to me, well, I don't understand, why would I ever do that? Well, earning half, if you have little to no other expenses to run or grow your business, oftentimes fills in the gaps, right? Being a member of a team is a volume conversation. When you join a team, there are very few rainmakers that I know who have an expectation that when you join the team, you'll close 2 or 3 transactions in a year and be good with that, right? There's a volume level conversation that goes on inside of a team, because the whole idea of a team is growth, right? And so the more opportunity you have to close more, even if the money in your pocket is less, the volume, you make up for it in volume. The other thing you have to remember is that you're now not incurring the costs of the administrative help and the licensing fees and all the other expenses. On the listing side, you're not oftentimes incurring the expenses of the marketing of the listing, right? All the things that the rainmaker now takes on their side. And frankly, you know, the rainmaker takes a lot of the risk in paying for a lot of that stuff up front, with only the promise of the reward of business being closed, right? And so you have to remember, from a business conversation, you're balancing the pros and cons of what that looks like. Now, I say you typically earn between 0 and 50% because all teams operate differently. right? A 50-50 split on a buyer is pretty typical. And yet across the country, I will say that, that depending on where you are, what you're doing, and what the volume of business is, there are buyer's agents who earn anywhere between 30 and 50%. So 50% is typical, at least locally, and yet nationally the numbers can be smaller. On the listing side, sometimes there's an opportunity for you to be involved on the listing side as well inside of a team. In many team scenarios, the rainmaker retains the hat of the listing specialist. And so in the beginning, having conversations with that rainmaker to say, okay, what are my opportunities on the list side? Because I don't think I want to just work buyers my whole career. And so that's a conversation then. There are some teams that hire simply team agents, where those team agents can handle listings and handle buyers. And the numbers for each are discussed prior. There are some team opportunities where you start on the team handling mostly buyers, and after a certain amount of time or a certain level of business, if your interest is still there on the listing side, that rainmaker now kind of walks you through moving into the list side of the business so that you can start handling some of your own listings as well. But again, those are conversations you need to be having up front, because the rainmaker will set some of those standards inside of their own teams. Referral fees on the listing side, if you're not touching the listing and you're just referring it into the team, depending on the team, those referral fees typically range from 0 to 25%. On some teams, you get a 0% referral when you refer a listing in. Why? Well, because in that scenario, the listings are what bring the buyers. So the listing agent is taking that listing, covering all the costs for the listing, taking all the buyers that listing generates, and handing them to you to close on the buyer side. So some teams do not compensate for listings referred. Others compensate 10 or 15 or 25%. So again, make sure you're having that conversation to know what that looks like. Rainmakers and potential rainmakers, do the math, figure out what makes sense for you and what makes sense to be appealing and attractive to your team members as you figure out those policies inside of your own team. Another sacrifice that sometimes is made when you join a team is that marketing and brand exposure are now limited to the team, right? It's not you. I see Jody on the call, and so I'll use Jody and some of her agents as an example, right? You very rarely see marketing or advertising for Jessica Buckley. You very rarely, and shouldn't ever really, see anything closed on the MLS in Jessica's name, right? Because as a member of the Jody Boxer Realty Group, the requirement is that all that stuff gets closed under that team name, right? So you become a member of something larger and lose the ability to market on your own. Now, in some team scenarios, when agents move to the listing side, there is a co-listing opportunity there. There might be a secondary name rider on a Jody Boxer sign with another name underneath. That all makes sense and is allowable, both from the MLS side of things and the Market Center side of things. But you need to have conversations with the rainmaker on the team to make sure that you understand what that looks like. And again, that's not just a Market Center conversation, that's an MLS conversation as well, because if you're a member of the team, the MLS does look for you to report under the team name. And then of course, schedule and flexibility. Now you'll notice that was on both on the pro and the con side, on the opportunity and the sacrifice side. And the reason it's also on the sacrifice side is because when you're not just a solo agent, when you're not just reporting to you, you sometimes are the support system inside of the team. And so schedule and flexibility works two ways. If you need some coverage one week and then the following week somebody else needs coverage, well, then your opportunity may exist to go and help in that scenario. And so your flexibility, your schedule may be impacted by being a member of a team, right? Open houses or showings or things of that nature, when it's not just you. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's sometimes a sacrifice you do make in being not just in charge of your own schedule. You need to be cognizant of what else others may need in that scenario. Any questions, comments, concerns on anything I've gone through so far about what that looks like in terms of being a part of a team so far? So we have a couple of other things to dive into, but I want to make sure that we're okay so far. Either in the chat or unmute. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's talk a little bit about the flip side and the opportunities as a solo agent, and then we'll talk about how this all relates to you in the Market Center if you were to choose to grow or join a team. So some opportunities that one has both as a solo agent, if joining a team is not what you're looking to do, what you're still looking for, some of the benefits of joining a team, we do have some opportunities inside of the Market Center, the first being our productivity coaching program. Right, if you're looking for support and guidance and things of that nature, and the team environment is not for you, you could then have a conversation with our productivity coach, Jennifer Henry, and decide that joining that program is what is for you in terms of coaching and consulting, masterminding, some daily accountability, group lead generation sessions. Right, that whole program is designed to bring you from zero to cap as quickly as possible. And the idea of productivity coaching is not limited to solo agents, right? You could, in conversation, if you're looking to join a team, have that conversation with the Rainmaker. I view productivity coaching as a leverage point for our Rainmakers. So if you're looking to grow or start a team, you may look at that program as a way to leverage out the coaching and consulting piece of your responsibilities as a Rainmaker utilizing productivity coaching. It is available to everybody. If you are already in productivity coaching and decide to join a team, you moving from that solo agent to the team agent does not give you an out on your productivity coaching contract, just so we all are clear about how that works, right? And so that's now a conversation. If I'm in productivity coaching and I'm paying Jen, because Jen's fee is 10% of closed business, right? If I'm paying Jen that 10% and Jody decides to hire me onto her team, right? Jody and I have to have a conversation that says, look, I'm a member of the productivity coaching program. So when I join your team, Jen gets paid 10% off the top. And then whatever our split is, we split after Jen gets paid, right? And so now Jody has to decide whether that's a leverage point for her and that she's willing to do that, because that will affect her income as well. I have to decide if that's something I want to continue with. And so it's just another conversation so that no one's surprised, right? Small group coaching does exist. That's something that I lead. It's every other week. We are going to, as we now see that we're not getting back to in-office closed door meetings anytime soon, we are revamping the whole small group coaching opportunity. And so that's going to be rolled out in the next 2 weeks so that over the summer we can start plugging into those small group coaching opportunities. That's typically done by production level. And we meet every other week for, again, masterminding, coaching and consulting, idea sharing, problem solving, things of that nature. So of course, you could always plug into that. And then just because you join a team doesn't mean that you're now not a member of the Market Center. And so we encourage everyone to stay as plugged in as possible, continue coming to whatever trainings the Market Center offers, sales rallies the Market Center may hold, know what those look like, any business planning opportunities, right? guest speakers, all that, right? So it's not just, you're now not just a part of a team, you're part of a team inside of a bigger team, right? Which in and of itself is inside of an even bigger team when you look at Gary's organization as a whole. So let's take a small look at what the relationship between you and the Market Center looks like in a team environment. And that's, we'll talk both sides. We'll talk as a team member and as a team owner as well. So in most cases, when you join a team, you're still paid directly by the Market Center based on your independent contract agreement with the Market Center and whatever agreements you have with splits on the team. So all of that gets taken into consideration, gets put on the green sheet or into offers in command as we transition from one into the other. And you'll just kind of list what the story is, or the administrator on the team kind of lists what that looks like, right? If I'm an agent on Jody's team, Jody may, we have a 50-50 agreement, right? I close a piece of business. Jody's administrator puts that into the system as 50% for Jody, 50% for me. Everything gets run off of that. And then each Jody and I receive a check from the Market Center directly. There were a couple of opportunities in our Market Centers where the rainmaker is also a broker. And in some of those scenarios, the broker has asked that we pay them all of the funds and then they will pay you based on your splits. That's another thing that does happen sometimes. It's far rarer right now, and yet it does occur. So again, you'll have to just ask what those arrangements are. You will have a team agreement when you join a team, and what that team agreement is in place for is what does the money look like? What does the relationship look like? Who's making what promises to whom? All of those things go in the team agreement. For example, I said before that the green sheet or the offers input is 50-50, and then everything gets run off of that. And so the conversation that's had inside of that team agreement is, if Jody and I are splitting the deal 50-50, like I gave you the example before, right? It's a $10,000 commission. Well, now 5,000 is attributed to Jody, 5,000 to me. And then if I'm capped and Jody's not, well, then 50% on my side doesn't have anything else taken out from the KW side, right? Gets run through that way. But if Jody's uncapped, well, then she has a split with the Market Center and some royalty. And so everything gets run through separately on her side, right? The split with the team happens up top here. And then as far as KW is concerned, you're two separate agents. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. In some scenarios, the team agreement. We were on the team agreement. The other thing the team agreement gets really specific about is what happens if all of a sudden we're not going to be in business together anymore, right? So we've run into some struggles in the past where those were not, that conversation wasn't clearly had up front, right? Let's face it, nobody thinks they're going to get divorced when they're in love and getting married, right? And so it all seems awesome in the beginning, and then if something goes sideways, we need to know how we're going to handle that. We need to know how we're going to handle it up front. What's yours, what's mine, what's the agreement up front? Because by the time you get to the time of the actual divorce, now there's money involved, there's transactions involved, there's emotion involved, and it's harder to make those decisions fairly at that moment in time than it is up front. So we encourage everyone to have some clear exit and divorce clauses in those team agreements right from the start. In certain scenarios, you do have the opportunity when you join a team, if you are a team member, if you're hired from the outside, which is nobody on this call, you do have the opportunity to be hired to a team and immediately go to a 50% cap reduction, which means members of teams are typically on a half a cap as their full cap with the Market Center. If you're hiring from the inside, which is everybody on this call, right? If you're joining a team or starting a team and hiring from someone who's already inside of the market center, there is a 12-month waiting period before that cap reduction comes into play. And the reason that there's a cap reduction is it's not as a reward, right? There are some rainmakers who I think falsely dangle that as a benefit. It's not really a benefit. It evens the playing field. Because remember, if I'm on Jody's team and I'm paying her 50% of everything I earn to cover all of the expenses of functioning on the team, well, 50% of my cap, like when my cap goes down by 50%, my income went my available income per transaction went down by 50%. So I still have to sell the same amount of real estate in order to cap. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's not like it's most favored nation status. It's not a benefit except where it becomes a keeping everything fair benefit, right? If that makes sense. And here's the thing. If you're only looking to join a team to at some point have a half cap, you are making the decision to join a team for all the wrong reasons, right? Everything else we talked about is more important than that half cap because if you're being hired from the inside, you have to wait 12 months anyway, and you have to sell twice as much to hit the same, you have to sell the same amount of real estate to hit the same numbers. So all we're doing is balancing the equation for members of teams to keep everything fair so that everyone is paying the market center the same proportional amount before they cap. The question of, do you have team agreements that we can use as a starting point? So the answer is sort of. We have a template that we have been holding off releasing simply because we have to be really, really cautious that the template has to come with some additional disclaimers, as well as some hold harmless conversations and documents, because we can't put the market center in a position of saying, here, we handed you this document, you used it, and then someone on your team sued you, or you sued someone on your team, and this whole legal battle ensued, and to have you point back to the market center and say, well, you told us to use this. So we have templates available. We've been advised by our attorneys not even to release templates. So we're trying to put our arms around how we can provide you with a starting point to move from in terms of templating. That was almost done just before March 13th hit. So we do expect to get back to that in the next couple of weeks and have something that we can release to you if that is helpful. I don't think I have much else on my outline. What didn't we cover that would be helpful to cover, or questions that you might have? And then I do want to give any rainmaker who dialed into the call for these last 10 minutes to introduce yourself and let people know who you are, and if you're hiring, I want to make sure that you have that opportunity as well. So any questions before we move to introductions? Okay, Jody, you unmuted. Why don't you take it away?
Okay, hi, I'm Jody Boxer. I run the Boxer Realty Group. On my team, I have an amazing, amazing assistant, Luke Broughton. And we also have two great buyer's agents on the team. And the buyer's agents are also, I should say they're team agents, because they're not solely buyer's agents. Jessica's been on my team. We just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. I just sent her red roses. So 5th anniversary for my buyer's agent, Jessica, on my team. And she is terrific. Just going back to what Rick said about having agents who are more successful on teams than many agents in the office, Jessica certainly has proven that model. We have a very synergistic relationship, and that's kind of what it's all about when you're on a team. It's not all about you. It's not all about the rainmaker. It's really, how do you make this synergistic? So, you know, for the way we work, I still do most of the listings, and my forte is actually getting those listings and analyzing where the listings should be priced and working with that. Oh, Luke's here. Luke just stopped by my house. And where was I? So anyway, it's very synergistic. So sometimes I'll have buyer leads that I'll turn over to her, and sometimes a lead will come in and she'll say, hey, they need to sell their house first. Can you speak to them about the listing side? So it's very synergistic. Anne is also on my team. She started a couple of months ago, and she's doing a lot of rentals right now. And she's doing great. We always are looking for talent. So, if you've got the right personality, you want to get set up in a team, I would love to have a conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jody. Any other Rainmakers on the call that want to just introduce themselves in terms of who they are, what they have to offer, and if they're hiring at this point? To close our call today, I want to end where Jody brought us, because synergy is the name of the game, right? Being in business with the right people for you and for them, with a common goal together. My goodness, I mean, there's almost nothing like it. I will tell you that when Debbie Orr and I merged our businesses together, I think it was 1952 when we did that, or something like that, 100 years ago. The idea, it was funny because people on the outside looked at her and said, why are you doing that? The only reason that young, dumb kid wants to be in business with you is to ride your coattails and make money off of the 20 years that you've already put in. And they looked at me and said, why on earth would you want to do that? You can do this by yourself. You don't need her. You don't need all of what she does. She's old now. She's phasing out of the business. Like, why do you need to be in business with her? And so it was fascinating to listen to all of the noise on the outside. Hi, Luke. The noise on the outside. But what we found was the synergy of fusing our businesses together. We were each at about $11 to $12 million in volume a year. And the 12 months after we fused our businesses together, we did 33 million, right? So that was not 1 + 1 equaling 2. Because if that was the case, we would have just done 24 million, right? That was 1 + 1 equaled $33 million worth of volume, right? And so the synergy and the pros and the cons and the cogwheels kind of moving together really is a huge benefit. And so I encourage you to look at that. Anything else before we finish? We're going to squeeze in under 1 hour. That's a spectacular time. So I appreciate you spending time with us today. I do know that this session is one of the requirements that we ask you to kind of sit through and experience so that you understand what this all looks like and understand what the pros, what the cons, what the sacrifices, what the opportunities are for being solo, for being a part of a team. Start to look around and see who the Rainmakers are in the market center, so that you get an idea of who you might need to talk to. If in fact you're looking to either start or grow a team, let me restate that. If you're looking to start a team, if you already have a team and you have your eye on someone, or you're on this call because you think that you might look to join a team, your next step for all of those people is the same. And that's a conversation with your team leader, right? A conversation with your team leader to say, I was on that Success Through Teams thing. I think that might be something I want to explore. And your team leader can talk with you about what the opportunities look like, point you in the direction of talking with some folks. If you're looking to start a team, your next step is to talk with your team leader to make sure that you hit all the requirements, right? There are some production requirements and there are administrative requirements, right? So we're going to ask you to follow the MREA and do this correctly so that you don't put yourself or anybody else in jeopardy as you go. So you speak with your team leader as well. And if you're already an established Rainmaker and you have your eye on somebody, we'll ask you too, before you have a conversation with that person, to talk with your team leader as well, right? We're going to funnel all of those conversations through the team leader to make sure that everyone has the best opportunity possible, and everyone has all the information they need to make smart decisions. Guys, as always, it's my pleasure to spend some time with you. I'm excited now because in 2.5 minutes, I'm going to go have my chicken for lunch. P.S. In 2 weeks, down 3 pounds in my weight challenge. Gotta love it. Chicken does it every time. So I'm excited to go have my lunch. I hope you are too. If you are joining us at 1 o'clock, we're doing something wonderful at 1 o'clock that I frankly can't remember what we're doing, but it's something spectacular. Oh, I know what we're doing. We're doing winning at multiple offers. So if that's something that you think would make sense for you, we'll see you back at 1 o'clock. And if not, we'll see you later at 4:30. Have an awesome afternoon.